I got billed $15,000. I probably would maybe be in prison, who knows. Can you picture putting that person in a point where throwing them in a room with someone whose job is to scrutinize them? When veterans feel betrayed, when they feel like they were promised something for their service on behalf of their country, and they feel like they've had the rug pulled under them, allow them to end up not making it. They're going to have to tighten up. They're going to have to get their ducks in a row and clean up, because the government's going to step in and say, none of you. Mr. Jeremy Best, you're here. You're a former prosecutor.
Right.
You're not, a VA accredited, right?
No, not at all. Not in any way associated with the VA or any type of veteran organization. I mean, my grandpa served in the military. My stepdad served in the military. My stepbrother served in the military. I've got friends that served in the military. Yeah. And so veterans are really important to me, just on a personal level.
So what I mean by that is you're not paid to have veterans go through the appeals process. So you're not incentivized, anyway. You have no dog in this fight, but you're someone, hey, you can read a law clearly, and you know how to interpret what things are. So we're going to talk about the Guard Act and things like that.
Right. So I'm not a veteran. I don't have any sort of relation to the VA. However, I know for a fact that you're a veteran, and when it comes to VA Claims Academy.
When I went through the VA claims process on my own, I was someone that was doing research well before I knew I was separating. Ultimately, I wanted to pay for some VA help. Unfortunately, I ended up going through, I guess, what people would consider a claim shark. I got billed $15,000 for my VA claim help, and they didn't even help me. So I got one of their doctors, and their doctors sent me some paperwork because I was telling them, hey, you got some mental stuff going on, yada yada. Yeah. 4 years in the Air Force, never seen a deployment in my life. Most blood I've seen is a paper cut, or that's it. I get their paper back. Their doctor said I was basically saving Private Ryan out there, like storming beaches in Normandy, had combat PTSD.
Wow.
If I would have turned that in, you're talking fraud, right?
Right, yeah, that totally would be something that's not truthful, and you're presenting it as a government document. There's actually a very specific law that talks about not being able to lie on a government document. So you paid $15,000 for that.
They sent me the bill for $15,000.
Oh, man.
I'm not going to say I paid it because there's no chance. You're going to send me an incorrect document. If I wouldn't have caught what they said in this paragraph, I probably would maybe be in prison. Who knows? Mm. Of course, I didn't owe them $15,000, so we're going to talk about that later.
Sure.
But right then and there, once I saw that bill and I saw the level of service that veterans were kind of getting to navigate this process, I knew I was going to do something about it. I didn't know about VA Claims Academy yet, but I knew right then and there, hey, something has to be done.
I mean, let me ask you, you said their doctor. What do you mean by their doctor?
That's a good point. The company I went through, which I'm not going to name, they had a partnership with this medical organization, and they have referrals, right? So you get intaked. Hey, we're going to help you with your VA claims process. The first thing they do is schedule you with this company called, let's call it some, medical company Z, right?
Okay, yeah.
So this medical company turns out is owned by the CEO's spouse.
Okay, so pretty direct connection there.
Pretty direct connection, and it just seemed like, oh yeah, we're just partnered with these people, they're going to help you out. But it was all the same company, and you're charged by the medical company then for your examination. They review your file. They may write you nexus letters if you need. But it turned out to be a big mess. And again, $15,000 and potential prison time for me.
Wow.
So you're talking about these companies logging in kind of on behalf of the veteran. Because my thing is, if you're a company, and this is how it works, right? A lot of the claim shark companies, the ones that have been deemed claim sharks, they work on, like what you're saying, a contingency basis where, hey, if we win an increase for you, we take 5x, whatever that increase is per month, 5x that amount. So let's say, or 6 times. So let's say, in this, we won you an extra $1,000 a month. that's a $6,000 payment at the back end of it. But my thing is how do they even know that you won your claim if they're supposedly not logging in on your behalf?
Right.
So I do what I do to help, to provide that service that I wish I had, but I wish I had going through. And I really think that companies, they're going to have to tighten up. They're going to have to get their ducks in a row and clean up, because the government's going to step in and say, none of you. That's it. No more. None of you can exist.
Right.
Because someone poisoned the well.
Mm-hmm.
And I would almost agree with them. Because when you have veterans who think they have an option, think they have an alternative, and they get just as, betrayed from going that option, the
Right.
help, specifically, that is almost a worse mental toll than just going through the meat grinder at the VA yourself. You're almost expecting it with the VA. Let alone when you expect something, hey, here's something, this is free up front, come get a free consultation. Oh, we don't get a dime unless you win, things. And then they just get taken through a horrible experience, allegedly. That is almost worse for the veteran in that instance. It's a total betrayal. You're not expecting it, and that's not ideal.
I can relate to that. I mean, first of all, it breaks my heart to see something like that. When I was a prosecutor, I represented the people of the state of Texas. So it'd be the state of Texas versus Jordan Anderson or whatever. Now that I'm on the defense side of it, I represent the person. And so to hear somebody getting railroaded by the system, first of all, it just boils my blood. But then also, when it comes to veterans, I can see that you're obviously passionate about this from personal experience, but you also have brothers in arms and sisters in arms who, going through this process alone or going through this process without the proper education and preparation, it's a tragedy that should never happen. And I can't help but think for me, with some of my criminal clients, especially on the criminal side, they're dealing with mental health issues. Yeah. They've got past trauma that they're dealing with. And for them, articulating some of the things that I need to know is really hard and difficult. And again, I'm trying to filter through. And so can you tell me about a time or maybe a specific case or whatever you can share about, somebody who, because of your program, kind of you helped in that regard, articulating that? Because I would imagine that a lot of these veterans have some sort of difficulty articulating, especially those who've gone through some really traumatic stuff.
Yeah, there's tough instances where you have, the worst of the worst, I hear, I'm sure you do too, as, a lawyer, but the worst of the worst has occurred. And I've had, just a couple weeks ago, a gentleman call me up, and you could just tell, even speaking to me, and he knows that I'm here for him. You can tell me anything. I'm not going to get you in trouble. I'm here to fight for you, just like you are on behalf of your clients. And to me, you could tell it was just going too fast, wavering, breaking down, just not conveying, which I don't blame him, in a really effective manner. Can you picture putting that person in a point where throwing them in a room with someone whose job is to scrutinize them now?
So yeah, what would it be like for a person who just calls you like that without your help, for instance, and they go into this exam, they go into these claims without having talked to somebody to kind of help prepare them or educate them on what to expect? Like, what would happen to that person?
A lot of times, that's all it takes to really have a bad experience, and it really burns them, and they're not back. They're not applying for any more increases ever again. Those type of people, and think about it. These veterans are people who would run into the line of fire, risk their lives. Wow. They're not quitters. They're not mentally weak, and then they have that experience, and that's it. They never go back. Yeah. That kind of, I got chills right now. That's kind of what's shocking to me. These are not quitters. They're resilient. They're tough as heck, and that's what could break them.
And so what are you doing for that guy you were talking about? Yeah. He calls you. Yeah. He's obviously not able to articulate what's necessary? How do you help him?
Now you have for instance, okay, I'm able to squeeze out a little information, fill in the gaps. Hey, would you say, and have a conversation. Turn it from an examination or an interrogation to a conversation now. Okay, does it affect you like this at work? Oh, okay, what about this? Oh yeah, now that you mentioned it, this did happen. Uncovering these blockages that they have, right? Because a lot of, again, these veterans are tough. A lot of them are covering up their own stuff in the VA claims process. Because they're used to being tough, they're used to not going to the doctor, not being forefront with their things that they're suffering from. So now they have a personal statement. Okay, hey, boom, this is my story, this is my true story, and it's written in a way that the VA is going to be receptive to it. They can take that with them and refer to it. No kidding, refer to their notes, refer back to their personal statement in the actual exams. They have something.
That's awesome.
This is my winning story. This is my backup. I no longer have to perform on the dot. I'm no longer, you're going to be nervous, of course. They're still going to be nervous. But they have something that they can literally, when they get flustered, okay, I can read this. We've already thought about this.
Something to ground them.
Something prepared.
Right.
You don't go into a courtroom without your documentation, without your preparation.
Right. And just to be clear, too, though, you're not the one walking them into that.
No.
You're not the one that has prepared that for them.
No.
And you're not the one that's representing them in that situation or filing for their claims on their behalf,
No.
right?
They still got to tweak their own personal statement, make sure it's exactly, fully laid out. But that guidance for filtering, more of a filter than anything. Filtering, okay, there's a structure here, now you're confident.
Just prepare them and educate them before they even get in the process of navigating it. And especially I see how helpful that would be to a veteran like you're talking about, who's been in the line of fire, who's seen their brothers in arms be killed sometimes, be shot at. I mean, just the worst of the worst, like you put it. And I can't imagine having to articulate that in front of somebody for the first time, and all you're trying to do is just get help.
The bottom line is, we see, unfortunately, the numbers, right? The numbers in this country as far as veterans' mental health, right, in terms of self-harm, a lot of us have experienced that. Either a friend, almost all of us know a friend or someone we know who's taken their life, things like that. When veterans feel betrayed, when they feel like they were promised something for their service on behalf of their country, and they feel like they've had the rug pulled under them, a lot of them end up not making it. So that's kind of the real life impact at a scale of, hey, having the best help that you need.
Stay tuned for scenes from our next episode.
It seems like the government is trying to basically corner the market on these VA disability claims.
One of the major issues with the whole process is you're taking someone who is clearly, maybe mentally disabled, maybe has, let's say, combat-related PTSD. They don't even like to talk to their spouse about what happened.
And that just seems a little bit shady. It seems like they're cutting out any sort of private competitors, and you have to use these specific people that they have in their network. But submitting an optimal claim the first time, the right way, it should be the goal.
Right.